Welcome to my so-called podcast. On this episode, we'll be reflecting upon the entire year of 1994.
Like the past. The movie never changes. It can't change, but every time you see it, it seems different because you're different. You see different things.
Welcome to My So-Called Podcast. I am Gary Linton.
And I'm Eric Spiegel.
Hey, Eric, how you doing? Happy New Year.
Hey, happy 2025. Anything going on in the world, Gary?
No, we're not concerned about that. What we're going to do is we're going to go back and look back at the year of 1994 because 2024 just ended. So it's like, let's look back 30 years because that's what we do. We look back at the 90s.
Yeah, and what a year, huh?
1994 for movies and music. Yes, it was an incredible year.
It was a banger.
Yep. Eric, we usually talk about stuff in the 90s by ourselves, but we have some guests on this episode, on this 1994 extravaganza. Does everybody want to go and introduce themselves?
Hey guys, I'm Alicia. I'm Eric's wife.
Friend of the show,
I was
Alicia.
alive in 1994.
Also,
Prove it.
My name's Brian Vaccaro, and it has been 2 years since my last confession.
Ooh. Has it been 2 years since you've been on the podcast, Brian?
No, it's probably been longer than that.
That's true. We don't do them as frequently as we used to, so
No,
I guess.
no.
But we don't also count confessions longer than 2 years. That's the maximum.
Yeah.
They do have a good excuse though. They're in a band now, so that's cool.
Let's withhold judgment until you hear the band play live.
They've refused to let me into this band.
That's right.
No professionals.
That's right.
I don't think that's what it's about.
And then if your name starts with a J, you're next.
I'm Jeannie. I was 9 in 1994.
It's important information to get out there at the top of the
Just wanna
podcast.
give
Get it
that
out there.
Caveat.
You were not.
And then OG is next. The original PG, Paul Glazer, next.
Oh,
Was
hey,
confusing.
I'm Paul Glazer. I have the fortunate, or some might consider it unfortunate, task of working with Eric.
Wow.
Paul, we had you on the podcast when we talked about Philip Glass was, I think, the only time we talked about like a symphony on the podcast. So,
And he will emerge again tonight.
Right on.
Everybody's talking Glass tonight, though, I'm sure. All classical all the time.
that's right.
And I'm Phil Norris. I'm husband of Jeannie here, and I was not 9.
Wait,
I was older than that in '94.
But not too much older, right?
7
Really,
years.
like,
Cover back then,
75,
okay?
Phil was 112 in 1994. He's Count Orlok.
But he's aging backwards. He's Benjamin Buttons.
That's correct.
Yeah, he's now 79. He's aging backwards. Well, so Gary, we usually have all kinds of things to say about the year, the week, etc. This is a podcast where we go back to a week in the 90s normally, and we review an album and a movie that were released that week. And we're anxiously awaiting the arrival of Captain Raoul, who has just let me know he's on his way.
Oh, okay.
And introduce himself in a sec. But we can go around the horn to anybody that wants to say, hey, what the hell is going on with you in 1994? You know what I mean? And we'll go backwards. Phil, you remember anything important about the year 1994?
Absolutely. You want me to start?
I do.
Well, not
Okay,
about I guess just like a personal anecdote about 1994, right? Or Eric, you weren't saying categories yet, were you?
Yeah, no. This is just you telling me what you remember about Phil, the man, in 1994. Or, for example,
were
Jeannie, the
excited.
9-year-old in 1994, whatever. Like, what kind of bubble gum did you like, for example?
Well, I mean, for me in '94, it was the end of my sophomore year, into my junior year. So like '94 was a pretty, I think, important year because there's a lot of, when I went through the list, a lot of albums that I really feel like, kind of made me, especially in the high school days, So it was a pretty important year for me, for sure. I think I like Bubble Yum, if that's what you wanted, Eric.
I wanted that too. Paul.
I was planning our wedding, and we would do a lot of dates to the Tivoli Theater to see films. And then I was wrapping up my PhD in the lab. And what I would do was I would tape full albums because Keishi used to play full albums on Sunday night. I would tape them and then listen to them while I was wrapping up my PhD late at night. I could press a special button and it would broadcast through the whole lab while no one was there. So special memories.
Oh, that sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Gary has a cool Keishi t-shirt he wears sometimes with the pig on it.
That's right. Sweet meat.
Real rock and roll radio. Jeannie?
I just remember this as the year of like Columbia Records or like, BMG, like when you could order the CDs with the little stamps.
Yes.
That was how I got a lot of my music, that and watching MTV. So as a 9-year-old, usually while there was like a babysitter there,
Hey,
Hey,
Oh,
look,
we've just been
here's
joined by the
Cap.
captain.
Captain, we were just going through and talking about our 1994 memories. It's time for Gary to weigh in. You'll be in a couple of slots here.
1994 was also a pivotal year for me, just like Phil, because it was, the end of sophomore year, beginning of junior year. It was, I was discovering a lot of music and movies and girls and fast cars and cigarettes.
And playing soccer.
That's right, I played soccer in 1994.
Lindbergh High School, home
Go
of the air.
Flyers.
Stop.
That's right, the anti-Semites.
And let's see, it's me. I would say in 1994, as a sophomore as well, I was a bit part as the stereotypical Irish cop in Arsenic and Old Lace. I had my nightstick. I'd swirl it around and do my best Lucky Charms Irish impersonation on stage, and that was fun. Captain, 1994. I think there was something about a girl.
Yeah, that was a great year. That was the year I met my wife.
Aww.
Yes, we were in both in the theater department, and she was in the same one act as me. So that's how we met. But we didn't really talk until the following year, 1995. But we met in '94, so we celebrated 30 years together last year. Good stuff. And my other big memory that year was our fall play was The Crucible, and I played the oldest guy there, Giles Corey, the guy that gets crushed to death. Great role. I had to put on like a pile of like pancake makeup, and that's about all I remember about it. But yeah, 94. That was 31 years ago that I met my wife.
Yeah, high school drama, when you got to have old people or very young people, gets kind of funny. It's like the pancake makeup or like somebody on their knees or whatnot.
You also
Yeah,
drawn,
they spray your hair gray, and I had to like hunch over. I'm like, I think maybe 15 when I was already pretty short still, so it was a good look. But yeah, I remember The Crucible, and my wife who had ran track in the fall, and then she got hurt, and then that's why she decided to join the theater department. So yay injury! It really worked out for me.
Right. She would have felt worse, so it was all for the best. Brian?
1994, I was right in the thick of my college years. So end of sophomore year, beginning of junior year, but college for everybody else who also mentioned that. But so I was in the thick of college as a music major and in the thick of jazz snobbery. So I think I'd retrospectively caught up with a lot of this 90s stuff after the fact, after I sort of like found myself too good for it at the time, if that makes sense. So
we all understand how when you go to college, you're too good for everything for a little while. That I feel like we could all agree with that.
Well, anecdotally, I was listening to a Counting Crows record recently, an interview with the guy from Counting Crows, and he was saying we were the biggest band in the world and blah blah blah. And I'm like, were they really that big? Were they really that popular?
Yes, they were. They were huge.
I mean,
Okay,
they were on the sound speakers at Subway in Arnold, Missouri, if that gives you an indication.
Well, it's an indication of how I ignored it at the time, but it's been a good journey to catch up on it since.
And you've listened to a lot of Journey, right?
No.
Okay.
That's the only way to go on a journey, I feel like.
It's if you're gonna go on a journey, you got to put Journey on the playlist.
Don't stop believing, Brian.
That's right.
Alicia Spiegel, friend of the show.
Hey.
Put your face right up
the
against that
loyal
microphone.
listener right here. The listener.
Right up
That's
against
right.
that. There
Okay,
you go.
hi, there's my mouth. Yeah, so I also was ending sophomore year, beginning, and I think I listened to a lot of the same music as you guys, but the memory that came to mind was that was the only year in high school that I ever skipped a class, and it
You
scared the crap out of me
You didn't even skip on senior skip day.
Okay, well, that didn't count because my mom said I could. But I skipped actually, sorry Phil, my chemistry class to go to Taco Bell. And so the next day, my teacher, who was really, really nice, she said she came over to me with her clipboard and she looked me in the eye and she's like, Alicia, you weren't here yesterday, but I saw you were at your other classes, and I almost peed in my pants. So I never did that again. There you go.
Well, at least you didn't do anything else in your pants since you ate Taco Bell.
That was the day before. So
Eric, they're a sponsor this episode.
Oh, okay. Thanks to our sponsor Taco Bell and our other sponsor Dysentery. So this is an episode of categories, everybody. This is different than normal. Obviously, usually my so-called obviously all the faithful listeners, the careful listeners will know that we usually go back to a week in the 90s, review an album, review a movie, yada yada yada. But this year we are going back to the year of this week we're going back to the year of 1994, and we have a few categories. We have the They Didn't Get It Award, which is you don't understand why it wasn't a big deal, kind of a deal to you personally. And then the I Didn't Get It Award, which is you don't understand why it was a big deal. Then we have your personal best song that you want to champion, and your personal best album, after which we'll take a break, and then we'll head on over to the movie portion of the podcast, which you guys will all be familiar with. So since we have such a large grouping of wonderful guests, we're going to start with Alicia for the They Didn't Get It music version.
Hey, this one was pretty hard for me, probably the hardest. I'm gonna say that I did like Soul Coughing. I'm not like an expert, but I liked Soul Coughing, and they had an album called Ruby Vroom, and I enjoyed it, and I never heard anybody else talk about it.
All right, They Didn't Get It, Soul Coughing.
Yeah. Ruby Vroom kind of came out with nobody. I didn't hear of it, Soul Coughing, until Super Bonbon, which was their next album.
Yeah, they kind of came into their own then, and then they were on the X-Files movie soundtrack, which is, the real marker of success in my book.
Exactly.
Brian, They Didn't Get It.
They didn't get it. So I landed on the album Hoist by the band Fish. And many people don't get Fish. And especially at that time, that was my, in college, they were a very important band to me. And this was sort of like their first bridge into commercialism, I suppose. And I guess, in my research, I saw that it topped at number 34 on the album charts. So for them, that's, that was commercially successful based on what they did in their previous albums. But I don't know. I think there's a lot of good tunes on this album, and I think it was largely dismissed because it was a jam band.
Yeah, Hoist. Go on, Eric.
They were ahead of the rest of the music landscape and making most of their money off of touring.
Right, which is the case for everybody now. But
I'd put Hoist as my favorite Fish album still. Quite a departure from, songs like Fee or anything.
Enjoy Myself.
Yep, yeah.
Yeah, that was the first Fish album I heard. The first one I remember, and it's kind of poppy. They have like background singers on it, and it doesn't sound like a lot of their other stuff. But that was the first album of theirs that I heard, so I thought that's what Fish sounded like. And it's not really jammy on the album. And then you go back, and so I went back and listened to their older stuff, and I was like, oh, that's what they were talking about. But yeah, it's still actually probably Billy Bree's my favorite, but Hoist is. Those two were in the mid '90s. Those were the top of the mountain for me.
It was a very song-oriented album as opposed to the stuff that came before.
Yeah.
And after.
Hoist by Fish. Captain, They Didn't Get It.
I had to think about it hard because all my friends in high school got it, but I picked Ween Chocolate and Cheese. That was real big in my friend group, but not with anyone else apparently. It's a very kind of esoteric, all over the place album.
Did that have AIDS on it?
It did have AIDS, yes.
Best cover.
Yes, best cover. St. Louis Love AIDS. A couple times they were in town, they played that the AIDS song, and they just kept going, St. Louis loves AIDS, and the crowd went wild.
Yeah, nice.
And also, I will note that you guys haven't done Chocolate and Cheese on this podcast, which means you guys didn't get it either. So when you guys are ready, hit me up, because I could talk about that album all day.
So the they in this case could be humanity as well as my so-called podcast.
We did 12 Country Greats by Ween.
Also, great is in the title on that one for sure. But yeah, Chocolate and Cheese is the king of the mountain for me.
I think we could all piss up a rope these days. Oh, it's my turn. They didn't get it. So after Out of Time and Automatic for the People, everybody was hungry for a new REM album, and they decided to go rockin' with their album Monster, which I really, really liked at the time. I liked a lot of the songs on it. There's a lot of like really catchy songs, as well as some rockin' songs, as well as some soulful ones that I really enjoyed. But it had a little bit of a backlash, which lasted even into their next album, I feel like, which is not fair. And
Monster was a huge hit, Eric.
Monster
hit.
It was bought by a lot of people, Gary, but disliked by half them, I feel like. So I feel like they got it, they bought it, but they didn't get it.
Okay.
And I'll give it to Monster. There's Let Me In on this album. It took until like The Bear for everybody to understand that Strange Currencies is one of the best songs they've ever released, and it's just really good. I listened to it over and over again. My friend Jeremy sold it to me for $3 because he was like pissed at the album. So at least Jeremy didn't get it. Monster.
They toured here in '95 on the Monster album at Riverport. I went and saw it, and REM did, and
Radiohead opened.
It was an amazing show. But Radiohead wasn't very popular at the time, so my friends and I were very excited about that, and we were a little lukewarm because we thought the REM show would be a little loud for an REM show, and we were right. But yeah, that was a hell of a tour.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like people had put REM in a box of sing-songy adult contemporary just because of their last two albums. People hadn't listened to their earlier stuff, and this was a really nice addition to the discography. I really enjoyed like them taking a left turn here, and it holds up. Next is you, the old Gary dog.
Yep. So I'm gonna go with they didn't get it. At least America didn't get it. We were all going crazy for Oasis and Blur, but Pulp, His and Hers also came out in 1994, and it was not appreciated stateside.
What's on His and Hers?
Songs. Oh, Eric, I don't. You're gonna make me call. I don't remember.
I mean, I feel like we weren't necessarily going crazy for Park Life and Definitely Maybe, but we were starting to go kind of a little bit lukewarm crazy for it. But yeah. No, we never went crazy for Pulp, though, did we?
Yeah, Common, like the next album, Different Class, is arguably better than His and Hers, but His and Hers is a good album.
Yeah, that's
Babies.
as crazy as we ever went for Pulp.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you remember the first time? That's off of. Yeah, that's right. And
they toured on that album, and they came to St. Louis. They played Point Fest '95. I saw them in Point Fest '95, and I didn't really get it.
Yeah.
And
who are these guys?
Yeah, and then they haven't been back to the even the Midwest since. But I thought like it's like, oh wow, I saw Pulp, but I think back and I'm like, I thought they were just kind of weird.
Yeah.
Jeannie?
So I chose Sunny Day Real Estate Diary, the album Diary. I feel like, they got put into the emo category. I didn't come across them until I was in college. And a cute boy who made me break up with my high school boyfriend. He didn't make me, but he paused me to break up with my high school boyfriend, introduced me to Sunny Day Real Estate, and so I've liked them ever since.
Not when you were 9, right?
No, like I said, yeah. I was not Doogie Howser. So yeah. But I recently saw them at the pageant, which, is nice because they never got big enough, and so they were at the pageant, not anywhere bigger, which I feel like the pageant is like the best venue for music.
Agreed.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's a good call. Good one.
Sunny Day Real Estate, and then Paul, you're next. They didn't get it. Music.
Well, first I had a question for Captain. Is the Ween, is that the same Ween that wrote the song Zoloft?
Yeah, that's off.
Oh yeah,
that's my favorite Ween song.
Yeah,
that's a good one. All
right, so my pick for They Didn't Get It is sponsored by Taco Bell's '90s decade Gordita Supreme. But I'm once again I'm going off the board with Glass and classical. Philip Glass wrote an opera for a silent movie. Philip Glass writes lots of weird operas. This one was for La Belle et la Bête, Beauty and the Beast by Jean Cocteau, and it premiered in 1994. Of course, the album didn't come out until 1995 as the way music producing. But for those of you who want to watch it, it's just an incredible adaptation of an opera to a silent film. And I don't think people talk about it anymore. And if you wanted me to go go rock and roll, I would say Weezer is probably my, they didn't get it because now people get it nowadays, but back in the 1994, no one was listening to that. It's just.
So we could play the Philip Glass Beauty and the Beast along with the silent film and like sync it up.
It's actually
Dark
really
Side of the
it's a DVD. There's a DVD or Blu-ray you can buy, and it's already synced up like that. Now, when I bought it, it was just a CD. I actually got it from the Washington University's gift shop, which back then had a really good classical CD collection before they remodeled. So yes, that would be a good film. Well, actually, I think the film might have came out in the 2000s. So.
Nice, Philip.
Oh, so my pick was "Question the Answers" by a band called the Mighty Mighty Bosstones. Because I mean, I was a really big fan back in the day, and it was right after the album "Don't Know How to Party," which was kind of big for them. But then it was right before the "Let's Face It" album that had all their hits that everybody knew later on. But like even my collect friends, like I got that album "Question the Answers" and I loved it. There was like no there were singles on there, but no like singles that like did them any good. And like none of my friends liked the album. Like I seemed to be the only person around me who was like into this album, and like it wasn't a successful album, I don't think, but it was also my immediate friends didn't really like it either. So I was like, well, what's wrong with this? This is great, guys. Come on. So
yeah, that's perfect. They didn't get an award. And, I feel like ska in general didn't quite make mainstream until maybe late 96 or even 97, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the Mighty Mighty Bosstones, let's face it, was 1997. That was probably their biggest hit, right?
Yeah.
That's the impression I get.
Oh, this guy.
This guy.
Maybe they just didn't get so that guy doesn't play an instrument.
He's just up to
the guy who dances. Yeah.
I need to be that guy. That's I feel like my place in a band. Really, that's I have the energy, but none of the talent. So,
are you saying you want to be Beetle Bob?
No. All right, everybody. The next category is the I Didn't Get It award. We don't like negativity that much on my so-called podcast, but we'll give you a little space to complain here, and we'll go through it. We're going to go backwards through the peeps, which means, Phil, you are raring to go again for the...
Back up, huh?
I didn't get it.
I'm just going to say it. What I didn't get was Hootie and the Blowfish.
They're such a baby when the dolphins make them cry.
That's right.
I mean, I know they were very popular, and I just could not do it.
Well, they didn't need your support in 1994.
They did not need my support. They got support from other people, and I was alone listening to the Mighty Mighty Bosstones. I was not able to understand the Hootie and the Blowfish.
I didn't get that his name wasn't Hootie. Much later, I found out it was Darius, and I was like, "You mean Hootie?"
It's true. It's confusing. Hootie and the Blowfish are just two guys they knew. Two guys' weird nicknames, apparently. Paul, what didn't you get?
I did not get Ace of Base's The Sign. I didn't like disco in the 70s. I'm not going to like it in the 90s.
You are overruled by disco on both accounts, but I'll accept that answer.
The Mountain Goats do a great version of The Sign.
I didn't know it was a 70s song.
No, it's just disco.
Oh, okay.
I mean, Lucy Dacus does a really good cover of Cher's Believe. I know that's not related to this at all, but we just heard it recently, and it's very good.
Well, all right.
Jeannie?
Okay, I don't know. I chose Weird Al. He released permanent record, Al in the Box, with hits including My Bologna.
Great. Oh, come on.
I don't get it. I don't like it. I just, that same high school boyfriend that I broke up with.
Jeannie. So there was a song called My Sharona. And what Weird Al did is he took the lyrics and he made it about bologna.
Oh my God, are you serious?
Yeah, so now did you get it?
Oh, thank you. Yes, now I understand.
I knew it.
And now I like it. No, I don't get Weird Al. That high school boyfriend really liked him, and that should have been my red flag. But
I do know a lot of good guys who like Weird Al, despite being good guys.
I feel like the thing is like maybe that guy was your actual soulmate. My opinion is like if you like Weird Al, you're a good guy in book.
It's the perfect high school boyfriend. Couldn't have asked for better.
Was he white and nerdy?
I mean, it's obvious, right?
True.
Yeah, that's self-explanatory.
I can picture him.
I mean, for our age group, like the 96ers, first time I heard Eat It as a kid, life-changing. I mean, life-changing. I was like, you can change the lyrics to songs? I was like 6, but yes, it was mind-blowing.
I'm going to go on the record.
I tried out for the high school or the elementary school talent show with a cardboard guitar trying to sing "I Love Rocky Road" for Mrs. Culture. He was not having it.
I'm going to go on the record and say, and this is like as an adult, not too long ago, I took my son and one of his friends to see Weird Al in concert, and it was one of the most impressive things I've ever witnessed in my life.
I clearly just don't get it.
I'll be sure to tell him you said that.
Weird Al?
Yeah.
You're going to tell Weird Al?
Friends?
Yeah.
Gary, what didn't you get?
Okay, so this is a caveat, I guess. Is I mean, it's fine. It's a good song, but they overplayed it, and I don't know why it was such a big hit. But Bruce Springsteen's "Streets of Philadelphia" is one that I was just kind of like, no, I'm sick of hearing it. I don't get it. Why is this on all the time?
Yeah.
So
I mean, Alicia's like that about anything by Bruce Springsteen, I feel like.
okay, even Thunder Road.
Go again.
Yes.
Okay.
That Garth Brooks song, "The Thunder Rolls," and the lightning strikes.
Yeah.
Oh yes, that's
that
right.
Song "Thunder Road" by Bruce Springsteen is that Garth Brooks song.
That's right.
Good job, Alicia.
I don't think I know that one.
Oh goodness. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, it won the Oscar.
Yep.
So in your face, Gary.
That's right. I guess I'm
That
Bruce.
song just tries a little too hard, Gary.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
something about it that's like, oh, come on, take this really seriously.
Yes, the video was all on all the
I didn't see
time.
that.
The song, Bruce Springsteen came to my house and sang it in my face. I hated it.
That's true. And that was just a little too try hard for Bruce Springsteen.
Exactly. Yeah, I was like, thirsty much?
So I took the I didn't get it award a little differently, I guess. And I know that people, music aficionados, etc., feel like Notorious B.I.G. or Biggie Smalls was a genius, a good rapper, a very good lyricist, etc. But in 1994, when Ready to Die came out, he was in his early 20s and I was in my whatever. I was 16, and I hated gangster rap. I just disliked it so much. The profanity, the murder, the bragging about the murder. I just couldn't get past the whole aesthetic to get into it or enjoy it in any way. And the videos didn't help. And so at the time, I was just like, I thought it was distasteful. So I did not get it. And I know that a lot of people now think, wow, that was a pretty amazing album. Jury's out, from my opinion. I maybe one day will become more informed, but I did not get it then, literally.
All right, Captain, you're up. What did you not get in 1994?
I called 94 the year of bubble grunge. Like 92, 93, grunge had really broken. And then all of the record labels were like, we've got to sign anything that's grunge. So there was just a bunch of schlock that came out in 94. Like, I really disliked Bush's 16 Stone. That was so bubble grunge to me. But the one that got me the most was the band Live Throwing Copper. I hated that album. I hated it. And
that wasn't grunge, though.
I wouldn't call Live grunge
at all.
either.
They were theatrical. It was like
no, they were trying. They were trying. I had what's the
I Alone.
They were trying real hard.
But like Lightning Crashes is not grunge at all.
Yeah, that was like the ballad. Same with Bush. They started making ballads. There were no ballads in grunge, but they started doing it. Those specific two albums and this whole like we need to make grunge more commercial really hit in 94 to me, and I could not take it. Like I went to go see. First of all, the naming a band Live is ridiculous. How do you even like? They're ungoogleable now. You can't if you put live band, you get 1,000 results. It's absurd.
That's a pre-internet name for sure.
It's such a stupid name. And I actually went and saw, they came to Riverport in 95, and I went to the show just to see PJ Harvey and Veruca Salt open up for him. And they both blew Live out of the water. I mean, PJ Harvey especially, like, was probably one of the best shows I ever saw. And then I left 3 songs into Live's performance because it was so terrible. I never got that band. They were, it was big. That Lightning Crashes song was really big at the time, but it felt very like, I don't know, like high school prom slow dancey to me, and I was like, this is not what I'm signed up for. I was so into
your preference for PJ Harvey is well documented in the history.
Fun fact, my high school boyfriend really liked Live. He was
This is-
really
And Weird Al.
and Weird Al. But
This is
I-
adding up. This is adding up.
As soon as he said bubble grunge, I said to Phil, I was on mute. I said he's gonna go for Bush because I will tell you.
I mean, that's bubble grunge. That's essentially the poster child for bubble grunge.
But
is
dang,
Bush.
did Gavin Rossdale have a chokehold on me? That glycerine, oh my gosh.
And Gwen Stefani.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The guy from Bush sounds like Elmer Fudd to me.
Well, I mean, and
Can't hear it.
both bands' sophomore albums were a total flop too, and they never had another album after the first. So story checks out. You guys were vindicated by history.
Yeah, I still don't. That was the year Bubble Grunge broke, man. No good.
How about you, Brain?
So this is more like it's just because this is the album that came out from this band at this time during the year 1994. My pick it's going to be a controversial one, Unplugged by Nirvana. I
Yes.
still don't get Nirvana. I didn't get it then. I don't get it now. I just don't. And as a musician, I hear nothing interesting going on there. I'm a lyrics last guy, and I can understand Kurt Cobain and his poetry and all of that. Aside from that, musically, I do not get it. There's nothing. It's reductive and redundant and boring and fight me.
This was going to be my second choice under Hootie and the Blowfish. So I'm
Oh,
with
really?
you on.
But they
Well, I
do.
like Nirvana. I
They
really
do
like
David
Nirvana.
Bowie's "The Man Who Sold the World" on
And that's a good
Terribly.
song.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should all weigh in. I would say I did not get it at the time. I did not like Nirvana at the time. I was young enough that I just didn't like how negative and disaffected they are. But like basically everything they put out has stood the test of time, and it only gets better with time, as far as I'm concerned. And I've been totally converted by just listening to the shit over the years. It's really, really good. And I think the Unplugged thing is probably the best thing they actually did, in my opinion. And it really points to like what they might have done next would have been amazing. I mean, you have to remember how freaking young they were and how little they had done at that point. They were teenagers for a lot of what they put out, but whatever.
The Beatles were young.
I loved it. I loved
Led Zeppelin
I'm
was
saying it's
young.
all good, Brian. I'm saying it's really, really good, and it would have gotten better. I didn't like it at the time, so I understand what you're saying. It's just like maybe you need to grow up.
No.
no, no.
I think we're getting at the root of why I'm not allowed in this band.
You're too immature.
I love that album, and it's funny. Locally in St. Louis, there's two Nirvana cover bands in St. Louis now. There's one that plays the albums, and there's a new cover band in St. Louis that covers the Unplugged Nirvana. They just play the whole Nirvana Unplugged set. It's that album is so popular, it has its own cover band here.
Well, okay, so this very much fits the description of the category, right? Like everybody else seems to
Yep,
get it.
yep.
I do not.
I mean,
And-
yeah, you're right. I mean, obviously, the same thing is true about Biggie, right? Like, I would be a drop of water in a giant bucket of love for that rapper. I mean, at the time, I agree. At the time, I did not like Nirvana. I did not like Kurt Cobain's like point of view or aesthetic, and it just seemed like an oppositional child that had a band to me at the time.
Right. Well,
And Unplugged is no different.
And I guess I look at it from a musician's point of view, where like none of those guys could play. Like they barely could play their instruments. I mean,
I do think though, like him dying in '94, like right after it came out, like I think that like kind of shot it up in everyone's consciousness because it's mellower than their stuff, and I like all the tributes that were played. That was music they were playing, the Unplugged stuff. So
I mean, if you want to become iconic, you should die for sure.
too late.
Don't say
Okay,
that.
I mean, a controversial choice, but you're right. That is what the category is all about. Alicia, you are ready to rock.
Okay, thing I didn't get. There were a couple of contenders, but I'm gonna go with the Bedtime Stories album from Madonna, particularly the song "Secret." Hate that song so much.
That's all ballads, that album.
I don't care.
Oh, I'm just adding color commentary.
Okay, yep.
I think Take a Bow had a really good pop-up video, though, if memory serves me correctly.
I don't remember that, but still sucks.
I would give Pop-Up Video the I Did Get It award. Thumbs up to Pop-Up Video.
Is that when they would give you like little facts?
Yes,
Okay.
if the video is boring, it would give you like facts. This is pre-internet.
Still not gonna watch that.
Take a bow, something.
Yeah, moving on. Our next category is best song, right, Eric? Best song?
Yeah, the next category is best song. And look, we're right here. The microphone's pointed right at Alicia Spiegel.
Oh yeah.
Right at her
Okay.
mouth.
Let's see here. I mean, I'm just gonna say Black Hole Sun.
Oh wow,
Took the
surprising.
words right out of my mouth.
Yeah.
I was gonna choose that one.
That's not even the
Wait,
best
wait.
song off that album.
Wait. Shh, keep your thoughts to yourself, Gary. Brian and Jeannie, you both picked Black Hole Sun?
I did.
Okay, you guys have a three-way commentary discussion about that song, and then Jeannie and Brian, you guys get to say an honorable mention on your turn.
Oh boy.
I liked Soundgarden. I didn't know a lot of their stuff like in depth, but I just always liked that song, and I still like it. If I hear it, I'm like, oh yay, I like that song. There you go.
The video is really scary too.
I feel like with this song, well, there's a YouTube channel that I follow, which maybe none of you do, because I'm in music. Like this is like a inside baseball music nerd sort of thing. It's Rick Beato, and he does a series of.
I love his videos.
Oh, really? Okay. He does a series of videos called "What Makes the Song Great," and I feel like I do that with this song. It's just
That's really cool.
the melody is constructed so well and performed so well, and it's very haunting, and then really weird, unconventional chord changes that just work.
They're scary.
But they're not like in a traditional music theory sense. They shouldn't work, but it just musically really does. Really clever the way it's put together, and a lot of weird sort of time signature changes that go on. And it's just a really well constructed song. There's a lot of cool stuff going on that is sort of beneath the surface that you'd probably overlook because it just flows so naturally when you listen to that tune.
Exactly what I said.
Yeah.
That's what
signature.
she has that written down on this piece of paper, actually.
Yeah, my take is very different. So, like, I was 9 years old and watching this on MTV for the first time when I had a babysitter over. Yeah, the video is like terrifying, right? But I was a weirdo. And so I was like, yay, I love this. This is so cool and creepy. We're all gonna die. Like, I remember, like, and plus, I'm 9, so like my brain isn't fully formed yet. And so I'm like, wait, is this real? Like, what is this video? And, trying to make sense of it. And like,
There are no special effects in that video. That's all real.
Right. But yeah, that was my perspective, because I cannot hear that song without thinking of that moment when I was in my living room, like playing on a little bouncy ball thing and like, being apocalyptic. Yeah.
It's a Black Hole Sun.
I liked that song the first time I heard it, and then the next 2,000 times I heard it in 1994, I really got turned off. I mean, MTV played that probably twice an hour. The Point played it probably 3 times an hour. Like, I couldn't listen to that song for probably a decade or two after it came out, because it was just they really, really, really crammed it down my throat, and I couldn't.
And this is something younger people may not quite understand, because like it used to be in the 90s, whenever a song was big, like you could not escape the song. And now it's like, if you're tired of espresso, you can just skip it on Spotify or whatever, but it's just like, I Will Always Love You was at the grocery store and the dollar store and at school and on the hold music and on every channel and whatever.
And I did not have MTV, so I wasn't really able to get
Also did not have MTV. Gary, you did.
Yes.
There you go.
Brian, what's your best song?
Well, it was that.
Was it The Man Who Sold the World from Nirvana's Unplugged CD or no?
No, title track, Super Unknown, or Spoon Man.
See, I wasn't prepared for a 1A sort of selection here.
Oh, yeah,
Jeannie,
that's
what you or
No,
no?
that's okay. You could just You've talked about Super Unknown. We'll come back to you again if you want. Cap.
Okay.
Probably one of my favorite songs all time in '94 was it's still one of my favorite songs, "Glory Box" by Portishead.
That's mine too, Cap. We're on
I gotcha.
Yay! Yeah. What a great song. One of the nice things about that song, and one of the nice things about the Captain, is that it's really sexy.
It's super sexy, like too sexy for. I was like 15 when it came out, and I was like, "This is doing things. This is not good."
My body is maturing in ways I had not expected.
I remember specifically because I had when Dummy came out by Portishead and Sour Times, I'd heard that on the radio. I liked it. I was debating. I'm like, should I go get that album? And then I remember specifically driving down Lindbergh Boulevard, and Glory Box came onto the point, and I literally steered my car to the Street Side Record and went in, and I was like, I'm buying this record right now. Like, I had to get it immediately.
And it was a good purchase. It was not.
It was an amazing purchase.
Well worth your money, right?
Well, except for it blew out the bass on my little crappy boombox that I was listening to it on, because I was not prepared for that level of bass that came with that album. But yeah, it's still just an incredible song, and it's both like really sad and sexy at the same time, which is what being an adult's all about, right? So it's
sad and sexy.
Yeah, right up your alley, Nick. Sad and sexy. That's what you go
Being
for.
an adult is about being sad and sexy if you're lucky. Otherwise, it's just sad.
You guys need that on your podcast t-shirt.
No, I mean, the risk of being redundant, it's a song that's only gotten better with age. It was great at the time, great now. It's a really, really good song, but we shouldn't discount the power of the album behind it either. All the songs are really, really good. Put it on whenever, especially if you're making out. Gary?
Yeah, so my pick for best song was already mentioned on the podcast to this episode. It's REM's Strange Currencies. That is the best song that came out in 1994. Full stop. Mic drop. I'm out of here.
Yeah. So, Gary, I guess my question for you is why...
I'm not taking any questions.
Why was this not a number one hit? I feel like maybe the thing is that we had talked about overplayedness.
What's the frequency, Kenneth, was overplayed?
And no, I was going to say Everybody Hurts got overplayed to the point of like really...
It was a cliche by the end. It was a cliche of like, oh, Everybody Hurts. That's like your sad song.
Right. It was even in like When a Man Loves a Woman with Meg Ryan and Rehab. And it was just like too much of that song. And I do feel like Strange Currencies is a sort of a cousin to Everybody Hurts in the chords and the sort of tempo and whatnot. And people just didn't, I don't know. It was crazy that wasn't a hit song.
Yeah, that should have been a hit song. But I think they came out like Star 69 was their second single. I think it was What's the Frequency, Kenneth? And then Star 69. Star 69 was kind of a loser song. I mean,
but Bang and Blame was a monster.
Yeah.
It was a huge hit. And that's a great song too. I feel like if that hadn't gotten played very well, like that also, I would give that a huge boost. That's a huge, well-written song with a lot of great lyrics and stuff. Anyway, good album.
Yep.
They were trying to go for like the rock star thing for Monster, and I think
they are rock stars, Cap. They're rock stars
rock
for a decade, bro.
They were college rock before that. They were defined as college rock through the 80s and like early 90s, and then that was their big rock star. To Gary's point though, I think if that song was on any of their other albums, it would have been bigger. But yeah. I think it got kind of eclipsed because they were trying to go for this loud rock star, like, what we would call like selling out or cashing in, like the going big. And I think that's people weren't trying to hear it at the time, and I don't think they didn't push it either.
You are totally. That's why it's that they didn't get it award for me. I feel like people misunderstood or miscategorized the album, didn't listen to the whole thing or whatever. And it's interesting because in this era, what the album meant or what the album was trying to say was such a big deal, which is not still the case. It's like if you hit with a single here or there, like that ends up being what you're about, and what your album's like meaning is to the public is less of a thing these days, I guess. I mean, because albums aren't bought anymore.
Very much so.
Genie, best song.
Runner up. Okay. So again, a lot of my experience with music at that age was through MTV. So I'm going to choose TLC Waterfalls because it had a really cool music video, and I remember
with morphing technology.
Yeah. and a really powerful message.
To wear a condom.
Yeah. And they were really upfront about it.
I think it's just about not chasing waterfalls.
And really like I was very young coming through the AIDS epidemic, but it was like in my brain, and I understood it, and it affected my family, and so that was just an interesting video for me. And like I remember, my mom actually really liked that song too, but I don't think that she knew necessarily, or maybe she did and she didn't want to talk about it with me, but like she liked that song too. So yeah, TLC Waterfalls.
Ooh, on the TLC tip, they're a real important part of my so-called podcast history, as are condoms a big part of TLC's whole history. They used to put them all over their clothes and faces, etc.
That was their one song that I think wasn't about sex.
I mean, I think the second verse is just about sex, yeah. but
That wasn't
You talking about
expressly
Marvel?
about it. Oh.
Paul, I'm sorry that we've already taken TLC from you.
Oh, yeah. I think I'm gonna go with Green Day's Basket Case.
Ooh,
yeah,
Good call.
they just really hit it on this song, and the vocals are just incredible. And I was just starting my psychiatry rotations at the Malcolm Bliss Hospital on the top of the hill, and so it was just like in the video, all that kind of just came together. So
yeah, I saw Green Day at the Riverport Amphitheater just this past summer, and they played their whole. They played the entire Dookie album, and then they played the entire American Idiot album, and it was a wonderful, wonderful concert. Actually, it was really,
It was
really
30 years for Dookie and 10 years or for
20.
20.
Yeah, and it was great. It was really, really good. Yeah, Reed. Phil?
I think my pick for best song is probably Big Empty by Stone Temple Pilots. Mainly because kind of what was brought up with like Black Hole Sun was a good one, and really all they were mentioned I think are a good one. But for me, that album that they had, that Stone Temple Pilots had at the time, was a really good album. But that particular song, I think, is like their best song that they've ever had. And I know they've gone on and done other things, and I'm sorry, Stone Temple Pilots, but I think that was like their best one they did. Like everything from like the little kind of slide guitar intro, building into it, the bass part in it, the little bass fill in the middle of it, the vocals of the guitars, like every little part of it, I think is like what they should have done every time they wrote a song.
Is kind of a Nirvana thing, but yeah, I mean, like I feel like they really perfected that in the song. I agree.
That was also big, like that was everywhere at the time. And they also, I remember, I have the visual of the Unplugged, him sitting in that big rocking chair, and just singing his ass off to it. And that was like such an omnipresent thing at the time too.
And that was a good Unplugged set too, because like all of their songs I think translate really well to Unplugged, which I wouldn't say about the Nirvana. That was my thing why I didn't understand the Nirvana Unplugged, because I didn't think many of their songs translated very well. And so they were forced to kind of come up with a bunch of covers, which at the time I was like, why they put a bunch of covers in there? And as an older guy, I appreciate it now, but I didn't get it. Sorry, I went the wrong way. But
no, it's cool. It's cool. Big Empty was
great song.
It was hard to escape. A really good song. So we have now headed to our last category of the music, after which we'll take a little break and we'll be back with the movie section. But we are to best album, and Phil, it's still on you. You're still in the spotlight.
All right. The issue is there's like 10 best albums and probably more than that.
Big year, right? It was a good year for music.
It was a great year, and I don't want to take from anybody, so I'm gonna have to narrow mine down. And probably the best album, if I had to pick one, would have to be "Ill Communication" by the Beastie Boys.
That's one of my top two for sure.
Yeah,
that's
on there.
Album, like I remember going with my friends to, I don't know, it might have been a Street Side Records, some record store nowhere near my house in St. Charles. So maybe it's your guys' Street Side Records or whatever. But they had like a CD release party for the Beastie Boys, and they're like handing out things. And I just remember the excitement of it coming out, like that it was going to come out. And I remember when they released Sabotage, which I believe was ahead of the album. I remember the point being like, we're gonna have a new Beastie Boys tomorrow at 4 p.m. on the point. And like all of my friends were like, we're gonna be at our radios. I went over to my friend Braden's house. We're gonna be at our radios to hear this thing. And that song is a great song. It's not the reason why I picked it. It really is because like that is the album that probably like spoke to me the most because of the mix of everything they did. You could go from Sure Shot, their hip hop song, which is one of the most perfect hip hop songs ever, and then into a musical, and then in something like Sabotage, and then it's just like a whole menagerie, if you will, of just songs, and they're all done perfectly, in my opinion.
Yeah, you got Q-Tip rapping on the title track like Ma Bell. I got the Ill Communication. It's great album.
Get it together, man.
That's
and right. That was the highlight of when they came to St. Louis in '98. The last time they came to St. Louis on the Hello Nasty tour, Tribe opened up for them, and the encore was Get It Together, and that was at the old Keel Center. It could have burnt down. Everybody was just smoking so hot. That album.
Is that the one with the rotating stage?
Yeah, in the round.
Yeah, I was there. That was a good one.
I was there too, guys. I still have my concert T-shirt.
Yeah, I still got mine too. But yeah, that was. I remember specifically like when we were going to that show. show being like, well, if Tribe's opening up, they have to play Get It Together.
Mhm.
That was my favorite song on Ill Communication.
Yeah, and they were heavy on the ill communication on that. They didn't like they played, songs from Hello Nasty, but they played a lot from the earlier stuff too. It was good.
Phenomenal.
Paul.
Well, I'm gonna go with Alice in Chains, Jar of Flies.
Oh, good. Yep.
There's like not really one great song on there, but the whole album just flows so well. The bass line just keeps doing amazing things, and I like how I forget the singer's name, but
Lane Stanley.
yeah, his ability to do like kind of microtonal slides and all these amazing things. Once again, just speaks to my love for bizarre harmonies. And that was one of those ones I could put on in the lab, and I would just get into the zone and get my work done. So Jar of Flies.
Yeah, Jar of Flies actually, to Nick's point earlier, where grunge does not have ballads, Jar of Flies does have some ballads and some great songs on that one.
I think that would have been one of his top picks.
Well, Nutshell on that album is like probably their best song. It's a good song.
Yeah, Nutshell.
Oh, I thought you were going to tell us your nutshell opinion of that album.
No, the song Nutshell is probably the best. Going with Paul's point on like the way he kind of just moves his melodies when he sings, Lane Staley. And then I'm a sucker for solos, and it's got probably the best guitar solo there at the end of the song to go with the whole thing.
Yeah.
Jeannie, that brings us to you.
Yeah, I really struggle with narrowing it down to my number one. But I think I'm just going to go with my 9-year-old self and choose Dookie by Green Day.
Good call.
So me and my brother, like that was one of the CDs that we got through Columbia House or whatever that was, that you could get the CDs. And it was epic. It was so different than, the music that my parents would play. And, even when I think of like When I Come Around, like they used that, like for the Alice 104.1, like how they do intros and radio and stuff, or like, transitions. Like, so when I think of the 90s, like I hear that song and it feels just like home to me. So
The same chords as Glycerine.
Maybe that's why. No, but yeah, me and my brother, we absolutely loved that album, and yeah, good memories.
It was good live. Gary,
yeah.
You're up.
Okay, so again, I got caveats because I realize this is not the best album of 1994. It's probably just the most important album to me. Probably one of the albums I've listened to more than any other album. And again, it's not even the best album of their discography. So I'm going with the Jesus and Mary Chain, Stoned and Dethroned. That was the first Jesus and Mary Chain album I listened to, and then after that, I got them all. And then it's I've seen them in concert, and I didn't go this last time when they just came into St. Louis. Wasn't able to pull the trigger on that, but yeah, Jesus and Mary Chain, Stoned and Dethroned.
That was incredible. That was like their commercial peak. It was that song they had with Hopes and
Sometimes Always is in the contention for best song in 1994, but because I did album Stoned and Dethroned, I didn't put that as best song in 94.
Do you feel like they are shoegaze or influenced by shoegaze? Because I feel like when we learned about, on this podcast, I learned about shoegaze stuff from earlier in the 90s, and they definitely have a droning, like melodic soundscape that reminds me of some of that stuff.
You might be able to, like, Stoned and Dethroned is definitely not shoegaze. That's their country Americana album. But then you could maybe say Reverence or Automatic is a little shoegazy, but I don't think I would call anything other. It's shoegaze.
Like we need to address this on the proper podcast.
They lean kind of they're kind of they're hard to define, because sometimes they can sound Britpoppy, sometimes they can sound shoegazy. I mean, they layer the guitars, but they're kind of more melodic, I think, than a lot of shoegaze.
Yeah,
depending,
because they were huge Beach Boys fans, and so they would do they like the pop still, unlike shoegaze.
Nice. Thanks, Gary. So I'm next, and I just want to forward have a little prologue by saying I got 20 albums in contention here. It's such a huge year, very hard to choose, and I just decided to pick the one that was most personal to me and the one that was least likely to be mentioned by anyone else, and it's the Cranberries' No Need to Argue. I had this as I got for Christmas that year, I got my first CD player, my first CD, which was this, and I popped it in on Christmas and listened to it a bunch. I listened to it over and over and over again for the next year or two. Loved it. They never quite reached these heights again, but the whole album is really sad, really really tuneful, really good use of her voice. And I mean, obviously, there's a couple songs on here that were way played on the radio, but there's a lot of great songs that were never played on the radio. And I feel like, there's cooler things to pick, but I love Cranberries, and I love this album quite a bit.
I can't actually listen to Zombie anymore because they played that song so much. I mean, like it felt like 5 times an hour they would play that on the radio.
And it got hootified, big imptified, whatever.
They absolutely destroyed that song. They played it
Yeah,
so much.
but I will say, you skip Ode to My Family and you skip Zombie, you're still gonna really enjoy this album. It's got some great stuff on it, and it's all of a piece. Like I don't really feel like any of these are meant to be big singles. Just happen to be, my could be honorable mentions could go on forever, but I'll just stick with Cranberries. Cap, you're next.
Yeah, I know. Honorable mentions are just so, this is such a full year of album. I mean, I will just give a quick shout out to Beck's Mellow Gold and to Tori Amos Under the Pink, 2 of my personal faves. But my favorite album of '94 was The Downward Spiral by Nine Inch Nails. I must have listened to that a billion times. In retrospect, you look back and I was like, why was I so angry? As a 15/16-year-old who lived with my parents, like, how did I internalize these lyrics so much, and how did I just eat up all the angst but also below that, there was a lot of really good melody on that album, and there was, obviously Hurt is such a classic song, and I like this album so much, I ended up kind of looking like Trent Reznor by my junior year of high school. I had my hair was long, and we just dyed it jet black because I kind of wanted to look more like Trent. I just thought he was the coolest guy, and but he was so cool because his anger felt just so, I don't know, righteous or justified. He was clearly pissed about something, and I was like, preach, brother, you tell him. It just spoke to me. When I listen to it now, I still enjoy it, but yeah, I just don't, something about that, being a teenager and being angry, that just always connected to me, and it's still, I mean, one of the angriest albums I can think of.
I mean, it's the closest album to a horror movie that I can think of. It felt like kind of a forbidden album to listen to in a lot of ways, which was very appealing to me at the time.
Well,
absolutely.
The song "Closer" is the only reason, probably forbidden.
The video,
a lot of other ones on the album that would also be forbidden.
I guess so.
Mr. Self-Destruct's pretty bad. There's some tough songs on there, but it's still, I mean, to me, that's the high watermark for anger, and it was approachable industrial, which is 2 words that don't usually go well together. It was.
So wasn't it recorded on Cielo Drive where Sharon Tate was murdered?
Oh, wow.
I think
yes,
it was. Yeah.
I think I've heard that.
Such a good album.
I had somebody make me a mix CD in college, so we're talking 2004, and it had the song the Downward Spiral on it, but he didn't tell me any of the names of the songs, and so for 10-20 years, I don't know, a lot of time went by before I actually knew what album that song was for. But I was like, I love this song, it's so weird and cool, but now I finally know. It's a dark song, actually.
Thanks.
And,
we're to you, Brian.
What?
We can't hear you with your mic muted.
Yeah, I'm muted. I was muting the dogs that were making noise a moment ago. My pick is Purple by Stone Temple Pilots.
A lot of good music.
And I think Paul was mentioning earlier his love for bizarre harmonies and all kinds of dissonance and all of that sort of, and I'm right there with you. So this band in particular, I feel like always took the whole grunge thing and did it in a way that was actually clever and interesting to me at the time then and now. In the way they constructed their songs and the way they would use these really weird, crunchy, dissonant chords. As sort of a guitar nerd, I was always sort of attracted to the idea of, well, this chord doesn't belong in a rock song, but they found a way to make it work, So musically, it was kind of challenging to me, and it was kind of cool. And aesthetically, I like the way those songs were produced and the way they sound. Scott Weiland's voice, and sort of he was kind of chameleon-like in his performance. So that's my pick, Purple, Stone Temple Pilots.
Yeah, that was such a surprise second album from that band after their first album. I was kind of like, where did this come from?
Yeah, Yeah, there's a fair
And the
amount.
third is weirder than that.
That's true. Yep.
Yeah, and they were trying, they were trying to push the envelope on that genre a little bit, I think. And if you're going to push it, if you're going to push the envelope, you're not always going to hit the mark. But
Yeah.
I think often than not on that album they did.
Friend of the show, Scott Ravenhill, loves purple. As says Brian Vaccaro. Shocking. Alicia, you are the last to talk about an album before the break. You ready to rock?
Totally. You guys were already talking about this album, so maybe I should have said it earlier, but Dummy was the best album of the year, I thought. By Portishead.
We didn't say Dummy was the best album yet, so you get
Well,
to
yeah,
chat
but we
about
were talking as we should.
It had the best song.
How great
I
Portishead was.
didn't pick Dummy because I picked it for best song, and I was like, I can't pick both. But yeah, that album.
Yeah, I understand. But I thought there were a lot of great songs on that album. At least 3, like you guys from my Glory Box. I love Wandering Star, Sour Times. Obviously, I think the whole album is really good to just listen to the whole thing. At that point, when I first heard that, I just was in love with it. I was trying to figure out what the heck that was. So yeah, really good.
Agreed. We all wish there was more Portishead in the world.
Beth Gibbons just came out with a new album last year, so you should listen to that.
It's actually decent. Yeah.
All right, everybody. So we're going to take a little break, a little 10-minute break.
Eric, I think we should do it real quick though before. So some albums that should have made a top list but didn't. You have Liz Phair's Whip Smart, Nas's Illmatic, Pavement's Crooked
Vitalogy.
Rain. Yep. Vitalogy. Pavement's Crooked Rain. Or just
Motorcade of Generosity.
Yeah.
Live Through This.
Live Through
Great.
This.
It's one of the Johnny Cash albums by Rick Rubin.
Americana or American.
The American recordings, the Johnny Cash. Speaking of the song "Hurt."
Yep.
Indigo Girl, Swamp Ophelia came out in 1994.
Yeah.
I was a big Massive Attack Protection fan. That was a good one.
Definitely Maybe came out in 1994.
That's right.
That was
And
runner-up to No Need to Argue.
Park Life by Blur, also 1994.
And Mila Jovovich had her debut album.
You're gonna go to break with that? Come on.
Well, okay. I do want to say we didn't mention like "Feel the Pain" by Dinosaur Jr., which is one of my favorite songs.
Oh, yeah, that holds up.
But also, Mariah Carey did release her Christmas album entitled "Merry Christmas," where "All I Want for Christmas Is You." Maybe you've heard of it. Came out.
Not familiar.
That might be the most enduring song ever released in the 90s. It's the thing that's on the gold record that's shot into space from the 90s, I think.
They start playing it in October now. Yes.
Yep, that's how you know that it's Christmas season in a few months. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be Welcome back to my so-called podcast. I'm Eric Siegel.
And I am Gary Linton.
And welcome back to our guests. We are perusing the year of 1994. It was a huge, huge year in music. Hard to choose between our favorites. And then we're moving on to the world of movies, aren't we, Gary?
Yes, we are, Eric. We are moving on to the world of movies.
And we're going to do the same-ish categories here. We're going to do the They Didn't Get It Award, the I Didn't Get It Award, and then best performance, and then best movie, and then we'll all get to go to bed.
No.
Friend of the show, Alicia Spiegel, is here, and we're going to start with the They Didn't Get It Award with her, because her name starts with an A.
That's true. This was kind of hard, but I would say that upon my research, I noticed that Wes Craven's New Nightmare did not do so well at the box office, and I'm always a fan of a Freddy movie, so...
And that's a good one.
There you go.
It's got some big special effects, that whole sequence on the highway, starring Heather Langenkamp as Heather Langenkamp.
Yeah, that's the one that went meta.
Wes Craven as Wes Craven. Yeah, it was like sort of a dry run for Scream in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
That was like before I knew what meta was. That was meta.
Yeah.
That's how you learned.
Kind of. Like I
watched Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Oh, I get meta now.
It's before meta meant a company run by a fascist douchebag.
Whoa, keep it in 1994, Eric.
Hey, I'm gonna fact check that. All right, he's dead. Okay,
not allowed.
Okay,
Brian.
So for this one, I picked the Coen Brothers Hudsucker Proxy.
Oh,
that's mine too. That's mine. They didn't.
That's
get it.
mine too.
That was mine. Hey, that was mine.
Nice,
Wow.
Paul. Nice.
How many of us picked that? One,
Four.
two, four. 4 of us. That's
I got
the correct
the
answer.
room on that one.
That's right.
Brian,
Well,
you start.
I'll just say this. So, according to what I was looking at, the budget for that movie was $40 million, and it brought in $2.8 million.
Such a bomb.
Which to me is sort of the epitome of they didn't get it.
Yeah.
Because what a great movie. I guess it was just too bizarre for the general audience. Maybe it still is. Maybe you have to have a certain sensibility to understand what they were trying to get to with that movie. For me, that bizarre sense of humor just hit just right. So I was a fan from the get-go.
Yeah, Paul, you also picked it?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that the montage where the hula hoop was invented was just brilliant.
Yes.
Brilliant.
You know, for kids.
That's right.
Go Eagles!
It's so quotable. It's so quotable. I even had to go make, I remember wanting a GIF from Hudsucker Proxy, and it's not out there in GIF form. So it's like, well, I have to make this GIF of Hudsucker Proxy. And it's the one where Paul Newman's hanging upside down and he goes, pants.
Pants.
You made that?
Mr.
Yeah.
Hudsucker. No, wait, what's his name? He's not Hudsucker.
He's Musburger. Give me Musburger.
He's so nice. Yeah, I'll give him an extra stitch for free.
That whole scene is great. Don't worry, Mr. Musburger. I got you by your pants. Pants.
Pants. I'll have a martini. Man, martinis are for squares, man.
The juice bar. We don't serve martinis. So quotable. So good.
Yeah. So the Coen brothers, they had released Blood Simple, and they had released
Raising Arizona.
They had released Miller's Crossing, and then they're back to comedy with this one.
What's that, Brian?
I said, was Miller's Crossing before Hudsucker?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And so was Barton Fink.
It's right before.
The Simpson kids' favorite rated R movie.
Barton Fink.
Barton Fink. And this came out and just everybody was like, what? And so they came back the next year with Fargo, which cost them $5 million, and it grossed like $100 million and was nominated for Best Picture. So they bounced back just fine. But I mean, this movie is, I mean, it's speaking of meta, I mean, like it's aware and self-aware and then aware again, back around again. It's wild. So much fun though. And it's funny to me that that Paul Newman is in this and Nobody's Fool later in the year, and Tim Robbins is in this and Shawshank later in the year. It's a weird movie for to exist kind of outside of everybody's awareness. But I wonder if they still don't get it, I feel like, with Hudsucker Proxy for this part.
Well, I wonder if part of the not seeing it at all had something to do with Barton Fink coming out before it. If that were, I mean,
for sure. I mean, and also like it's a hard movie to sell.
The whole third act is kind of crazy. So.
What do you mean? Weird Deus Ex Machina?
Yeah, exactly. We got Mr. Hudsucker being an angel flying down.
And the timing of the clock of the Hudsucker building actually stop time.
That's right.
So good. And Jennifer Jason Leigh is amazing in that movie.
You lied to me.
My Pulitzer on it.
A Muncie girl.
Yes. $5 as she mentions her Pulitzer. Bruce Campbell is one of the guys there. That's what Sam Raimi is quoted. I think he's credited as like one of the writers. Maybe?
He's a co-writer.
Mm-hmm. He went on to make a little movie called Spider-Man 6 years later. Bill Spider-Man. All right, well, we made quick work of they didn't get it. Let's see. So Brian picked that. Captain, you didn't pick that, did you?
I liked it, but no, I did not pick that. I picked Kevin Smith's Clerks.
Who didn't get that?
A lot of people didn't get it. I mean, it was not
I didn't get it.
A lot of folks still don't get it. I mean, but at the time I was, it sounded like the way my friends and I talked to each other, like more than any movie I'd heard at the time. And I thought, wow, but I mean, I got some accolades and it allowed him to make Mallrats and all that. But that kind of, it became more popular as the years went on, but especially at the time, it was very under the radar. It didn't come to St. Louis. I got it on a VHS. I remember watching a lot, but yeah,
he got his credit card to make it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Took out a couple of credit cards and maxed them out. Shot it at night. I mean, it's such a darling to me of like do-it-yourself cinema. Like you could see all the creases, you could see the bad acting in it, but it's just such a quotable movie. And in retrospect, that was probably Kevin Smith's high watermark when he first started. He's pretty much been making the same movie for 30 years since then, but
yeah, he's gone back to the Clerks well 2 other times, and so.
But yeah, I mean, that original was, just phenomenal. And, I mean, you could see it in, like, Frasier ended up copying, like, the black and white, like, word that he would put in between scenes. Like, it became very influential, and I felt like it made a lot of, I think mostly filmmakers saw it and, like, idiot kids. But at the time, I thought, wow, it was so interesting to me that it was something that I felt like I could have made, which I never really felt that about a movie before. I thought, wow, I think I could have made that. And yeah, that's not how movies were back then. So
I think that's really true. And it's really important in the history of independent American cinema because it wasn't like self-important or artistically minded or trying to like make a statement. It was like, hey, this is how my friends talk and hang out, and I want to make my stamp on the world and make a funny movie, essentially. It actually went through that sort of Sundance pipeline, but it wasn't like those other movies that went through the same kind of thing.
Yeah, it was mostly dick and fart jokes. And that really wasn't, I mean, since then, it seems like that's a good chunk of cinema now. But yeah, at the time, I thought, wow, you can just make a bunch of dick and fart jokes and that's a movie. And it was great.
Well, and also from the perspective of somebody that works an hourly wage at a terrible job, too. I already said Hudsucker. Gary said Hudsucker with the genie.
Okay, this is where you all find out that I have really poor taste in movies.
It's all a matter of perspective.
Okay, all right, we'll see. So I went with Airhead because I am an Adam Sandler apologist, and
Oscar winner Brendan Fraser.
Brendan Fraser, total hottie. I mean, really.
This is Bubble Grunge, the movie, right?
Bubble Grunge, the full circle here. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I love stupid films, and I just want to laugh, and I feel like it made me laugh enough to make this list, and it was definitely not a critical darling. So
it's a quotable movie. Got plenty of good ones in there.
Yeah, it's a good one.
The conceit here is that their grunge band takes over a radio station,
Mm-hmm.
which, like, how could you be more 90s than that?
with water guns.
I forgot about that.
Airhead, they didn't get it. Paul?
Well, my backup for this would be the Hoop Dreams documentary by Steve James. Was totally snubbed by Oscar night, but it's still very, you can go back to it, still very enjoyable slice of life for these real kids. So
yeah, that's a great movie. He made a really good documentary about these people that were trying to deal with a violent crime in South Chicago as well, called The Interrupter. Give a thumbs up to, give it a watch.
on my list.
Still?
Cabin Boy.
So many people. So many people.
I don't know why. It was a great movie. I mean, how can you not love anything that Chris Elliott does?
I mean, I'm on your side.
Yeah,
These pipes are clean.
Yeah, but I believe that was a bomb. I didn't do the numbers on it, but I know that it was not a successful movie. I mean, but I thought it was rather good.
Did you like Get a Life as well?
Yeah, that was a good show.
His routine on that show was to wake up in the morning and kiss his poster of Daryl Hannah above his bed. Good morning, Miss Hannah.
It was just so aggressively stupid, and I didn't really know that you could be that stupid and still like make a movie. I loved it. I mean, and just the like Andy Richter stupid dance, or
Heron Girls
David
dance like this
classic, or David Letterman selling that monkey. Like there were just so many bizarre cameos that he must have cashed in all of his chips, because there was just all of the bizarre cameos. But just that like so stupid on purpose was really spoke to me when I was a teenager.
It was a great movie.
Yep.
He did have a fairly large role in There's Something About Mary, so he got some spotlight later in the 90s. But
dude, Chris Elliott is now like rolling shit on Schitt's Creek.
That's right.
He really had to come back.
Yep.
Again, Chris Elliott does great things.
I mean, he was always great. Yeah. All right. So we're going to flip this whole thing around and get negative. I didn't get it. Starting back with you, Phil.
I did not get Natural Born Killers. Like, a lot of my friends really thought it was a great movie. Like, that it had all these weird shots, and, I tried watching it, I just wasn't into it. But
you liked the soundtrack, though, didn't you? Or was that you?
Got some nails on there.
Trent Reznor made the soundtrack. That's his soundtrack, and it's pretty incredible.
And Leonard Cohen and
Julia Lewis.
Yeah, she's on there.
That's the thing.
Julia
Woody
Lewis
Harrelson.
my I didn't get it award for the entirety of the 90s.
Yeah.
entire acting career.
I disagree. Loved her. I loved that movie. I didn't pick it as my favorite, but I mean, it was over the top on purpose. But I loved that movie.
Yeah, Iron Man has got that Australian accent.
That terrible Australian accent.
And the bright 90s dress shirts that are like shiny, one color.
Well,
and the creepiest turn, the Rodney Dangerfield as the creepy dad was just like skin crawling. It was so awful. I love.
And those scenes were like a sitcom. It was like
it was
over
so
the
awful.
top expressionistic sitcom, but except for with rated X content.
Yeah, it was something. I still like that movie.
Natural Born Killers. That was Oliver Stone, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I feel like he in himself is very polarized.
Yes.
Like, if you take like his filmography, you can probably draw a straight line to people that either love all that stuff or really don't. I don't think there's a whole lot of middle ground.
But like Platoon, for example, was pretty much universally critically acclaimed. But then after that, I would agree, he really kind of I mean,
JFK.
There's a lot of
like JFK a lot.
Yeah, but still, that's polarizing.
Yeah, people love U-Turn.
That's polarized by the people that hate U-Turn and the others that haven't seen it.
That's right.
Paul, you're next. Actually, that I didn't get it.
Well, I mean, my future wife and I actually enjoyed Forrest Gump at the film, at the movie. But whenever I went back to watch it, it's just the script is terrible. The characters are all one-dimensional. So and if you're going to have a cult film, it needs to be unpopular. And this was a popular cult film. So, yeah, I just don't get it. Forrest Gump.
Yeah, won the Academy Award. Did it deserve it? No.
I mean, I probably deserved the Academy Award for whatever that's worth.
Yeah, well, sure.
I mean, whatever wins the Golden Globe is probably worth that too.
And it's funny now that they voted Jenny from Forrest Gump as like the #1 villain of all time. Like I've seen on several lists. Like she beat Darth Vader. She's so bad. And
yeah, we tried to show it to our kids, and they were just like, "This is terrible."
Why do you hate us?
That's enough of that. I like Forrest Gump a lot. It's a good movie. Moving on, Jeannie. It's fine. That whole thing with Jenny is just okay, whatever, guys. You guys on the internet are too cool for everybody. Go ahead, Jeannie.
So I didn't get the next Karate Kid, even as a 9-year-old.
Is that Hilary Swank?
Yeah.
Hilary Swank, yeah.
Like even as a 9-year-old, I was like, why are you doing this to my beloved Karate Kid trilogy? Like this did not need to happen. I know that.
You're right. How dare anybody desecrate the memory of Karate Kid 3?
I thought that it was just like even now I look back on it and I'm like that's not rewatchable whatsoever. And I don't know. I know that The Office did this whole like, is Hilary Swank, is she hot or not sort of thing. Like I don't know. She doesn't. I'm not into it. So I didn't get the next Karate Kid.
Has anyone else seen it other than Jeannie?
Oh, I've seen it. Oh yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible.
What's your take? Okay.
My take is Mr. Miyagi, the actor, had a mortgage and needed to pay it, and so they threw a bunch of money to make another one, and he said, "Where do I sign?"
Right. It's like Michael Caine with Jaws: The Revenge. He says, "I've never seen it, but I've seen the house that it bought, and it's delightful." Gare Dog, you're up.
The one movie that I think I didn't get, I'm gonna say, is Dumb and Dumber. I know a lot of people like that one. That one just did not land with me. So yeah, Dumb and Dumber is what I'm saying. I didn't get.
I'm up next, Gary. It's me, Eric.
Okay.
Mine is Ace Ventura: Pet Detective.
Oh, excellent. 2 Jim Carrey movies.
I don't think that movie's funny then. I've watched it since. It's not funny. It's transphobic. It's him monkey shining for the camera. It's a movie's dumb. It insults the audience. There's nothing fun there. There's nothing funny there. Yeah. And I am perplexed that it made $1 at the box office.
He had 3
and I'm perplexed
huge
that he's
movies that year.
Famous after that year. I don't get it. I mean, I could watch The Mask now and be like, I kind of get that people would watch this.
Yeah.
But when it comes to Ace Ventura 1, I didn't get it then. I don't get it now. And I'm not a hater of Jim Carrey per se. I think he's made some great movies, Eternal Sunshine et al. But I hate Ace Ventura so much. I would say it's probably one of my least favorite movies I've ever sat through for the podcast. Otherwise, I would have turned that thing off.
Fortunately, Jim Carrey has grown as a person and as an artist since those days.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, the number 23 is a masterpiece. Yeah.
The one I never got was Reality Bites. It was aptly titled, but I never got that movie. I've always thought Ethan Hawke as like the slacker sex symbol is ridiculous. I've hated almost everything he's ever been in. I didn't get, and he's like trash the whole time to Winona Ryder, and then they end up at the end, and then Ben Stiller like is nice to her the whole movie, but he's a corporate sellout, so he doesn't get her. The whole ethos of that movie is so stupid, and also his Ethan Hawke's band butchers that Violent Femme song that I love so much. Kiss Off. The whole movie was, I mean, I should be mad at Ben Stiller because it's his movie, but I still just think of it and I think that Ethan Hawke can kiss off, you know?
I feel like the problem is you're right. Like, it's a love story, but she picks the wrong dude, and it's like it's supposed to be this thing that's like anti-corporate, but it's like a corporatization of anti-corporate kind of ethos. It's like it's wild, but Winona Ryder's so cute.
I thought I was way more into Jenny Garofalo in that movie. She was way cooler.
Oh, you're right. She's also awesome in that. Yeah. There's a lot to like, but yeah, it's a misfire. It's like a bad screenplay, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just hated that it got put up as like, this is what this is Gen X, and I'm like, man, sign me out. Like, that is not me.
But I mean, like, that's what the film studio wanted, but it wasn't even a hit movie.
Sure, but it got at least a lot of. It ended up being like a this is, you know, like several things. But
soundtrack.
What's your take on Singles?
See, that's way different. Like, they obviously a much better film than Reality Bites, but Cameron Crowe was going for something like totally different in that film. And
I mean, it does have Pearl Jam in it.
But yeah, I just like, it felt like it was trying so hard to like define a generation, and I was like, also, I mean, we're Gen X, but we were like the tail end of Gen X, so like those were like stupid adults to me. I was like, oh, those are like dumb adults. I don't want to be a dumb adult like that. I guess like that was the message I took away from that. I just I can't believe that was like held up to be a generational thing. I mean, there's plenty of things that are held up to be generational for Gen X, but that was always the one that I was like, you missed the mark so hard.
Except for Janine Garofalo, maybe.
She's so good at it. Steve Zahn's good at it too. They're both like the two bit guys are great at it, but everybody else, I mean, don't get me wrong. Ben Stiller plays this corporate sellout really well, but you know, you watch it now and you're like, why did she not like the guy that's nice to her? I don't.
Well, because he made that Real World Pizza thing, and she couldn't forgive him for that.
Unforgivable. How dare he try to make money?
Brian?
So I want to preface this by saying that what I'm about to say is from the perspective of me in 1994, and I didn't get it then. I totally do now.
Wow, I am prepared for a bomb.
I know what this is.
You do?
I think so.
It's Pulp Fiction.
Yep. Yeah.
I get it now. So let me reiterate, I get it now. At the time, I thought, this is just like a bunch of slick dialogue juxtaposed against scenarios where it doesn't fit, and it's just John Travolta.
I mean, that's fair.
To be ironically cool, again, and I don't know. I didn't get the bigger picture, and I guess it took a little time after seeing some more Tarantino films, like what he was actually going for there with that film, and maybe just a little bit of wisdom and age mixed in there as well. But at the time, no, didn't. I got Forrest Gump. I didn't get Pulp Fiction.
I mean, you weren't the only one. I remember feeling like assaulted by that movie in a way that made me like kind of feel unclean afterwards. Like I wanted to wash my hands and wash my hair. It was just it was a bit much for me, but I could tell there was a lot going on that I really thought was impressive. It was just maybe too much for my young brain or something, but I liked it. I was actually the soundtrack was on my list of some of the best albums, actually, because that one, although being a compilation, totally rules still, and that's one of his greatest strengths. I feel like still is like picking right music for the right scene.
I feel like the exact opposite. Strangely, I felt at the time I was obsessed with it. I think that's the movie I saw in the theater the most times. I think I saw it 5 times in the theater. We went to the Dollar Show like once a week while it was there, and like as I've gotten older and you see more cinema, you realize how derivative of it is. Like he's just basically copying a bunch of other like Asian cinema, like a whole bunch of other stuff, and he's putting it together. But when I was 15, I didn't know.
So you don't like hip hop either? Is that what you're saying?
I just like I didn't realize how much he was just like Americanizing like a bunch of foreign films, making it very interesting. But like
Well, you
a bunch
didn't
of
know what meta was.
at 15 either. No, I did not. But as I've gotten older, I'm like now when I watch Pulp Fiction, like it just seems like a bunch of other movies to me. But when I was 15, it was just I was mind blowing. I'd never seen anything like it.
Yeah, I mean, like that's what I had to learn about Tarantino too. He is in a lot of ways. I would say 50% making a collage out of other people's shit, but that's also missing dialogue, which is his, which I think is great. So it's like a play he wrote, but then he made this collage of other people's movies around it. I mean, you can't discount that he was writing that movie out of sequence, which did not happen at the time, and was throwing it in your face that I can make the dramatic kind of arc. I don't have to have the same climax, epilogue, rising action, whatever. It can still be entertaining. Whatever. We could talk about Tarantino forever, and he could talk about himself forever. So we don't have to. Yeah,
Alicia.
that was brave of you, Brian.
I'm gonna go with it was a hard one, but I didn't get it. I had a couple of contenders. Sorry, one of them, Genie, was Airhead, but I think
Just slip that in, huh?
Yeah. I went with The Mask. I
love it.
All three Jim Carrey movies.
Totally taking Jim Carrey down a peg.
I know. Sorry, Jim Carrey. Yeah, The Mask. I don't know. I mean, it's not really fair of me because I never saw the whole movie.
You know why
That isn't fair.
The Mask wasn't on my list was Cameron Diaz. I was like, oh, I get this a little bit. So
I get that part of it.
exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's got a little place in my heart because Eric and I went to this cabaret with some friends 5 years ago, and the guy in the cabaret was dressed as man, and that was very impressive.
Yeah, he had the yellow hat, green face, and a thong.
Oh, nice.
Somebody suck me. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was cool, but
Alicia, you got to turn it right around again
that's real.
and tell us your best performance.
Oh, okay. Well, I should stop saying my runners up, right? This might be.
Yeah, 'cause
I'm gonna
you'll
go
take
with.
somebody else.
Yeah. Okay. This was also hard, but I went with Morgan Freeman from Shawshank Redemption. Watched that again recently, and I just love.
He's the heart of the film. I mean, he
Yeah,
is.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it was
It's a
written.
love story between him and Andy, and it's just adorable. And
Yeah,
it's so subtle.
it's an
And
adorable
the
bromance.
The way that he cares about Andy, I love it.
I think that's where the whole Morgan Freeman as narrator thing got born. Well,
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, I was looking up all the things he's narrated since then. Everybody's like, yeah, he's good at that.
I mean, Shawshank would have been a great. They didn't get it award as well. It made
Yeah.
$16 million at the box office, and
that's more like they got it later.
Yeah,
I think it's
like you with Pulp Fiction. Yeah, we were I just showed that to our kids for the first time recently, and they absolutely loved it. And Ash saying like they should get married already about Andy and Red. But the novella is first person from Red's perspective, taking it from
Right.
Brian. You're next.
Best performance. That's what we're doing.
Yes.
Okay, so I picked Paul Newman in Nobody's Fool.
It's good performance.
I mean, you can't really get a much cooler movie star leading man than Paul Newman, right?
Agreed.
I've just always been a big fan of his in general, but I think this character resonates with me because I feel like I might in 15 or 20 years be that guy. That might
You're lucky. You got to bet on the trifecta every week.
Right. I feel like that might be in my cards. No, just great dialogue that he delivers so wryly and dryly. That
You want to know how many times I have to fold it?
it hurts if you fold it. Yeah. So Paul Newman, Nobody's Fool. There were a lot of good choices that I could have fallen back on this one, but I landed here because of the way his dialogue and his character resonate.
I love Nobody Fool.
Great film.
Bruce Willis is really good in that. I like what Bruce Willis did at this point in his career. He Pulp Fiction, this, and he's starting to like explore other stuff and get into, and that's what led him to The Sixth Sense, which worked out really well for him. Like not being an action star.
It just shows if you start with a great script, it kind of does the work for everybody.
Great novel.
Yeah.
Cap.
I'm gonna go ahead and call all you guys le who the hers because Jim Carrey to me had the 94 performance. He had the top 3 comedies of the year. I mean, an incredible run. And
which one are you picking though? I'm gonna have you stake your comedy.
Yeah, he's saying all three. It's okay.
I'm saying he had the performance of it. I mean, of the 3 of them, probably Ace Ventura was my favorite at the time. That was the first one that came out, and like I just thought he was so funny. I mean, it's real. I mean, yeah, I'm a Jim Carrey apologist. I get it. Not a lot of folks, and the decisions he's made over his career have not been the best. But at the time, in the '90s, we probably made more Jim Carrey jokes jokes than anybody. He was just omnipresent. He was those three comedies back to back to back like that. He was just everywhere, and
it was like syphilis.
I mean, granted, has it aged well? And there's a lot of problematic stuff there, and when I was like 15, when you're 15, that over the top silliness, was just so fun to me, and he just had such a big year, like comedians don't have anymore,
Yeah, I feel like humor is one of the most objective things, and you're not alone. I would say he pretty much changed the course of like what a lot of people did to be funny for the next 5 days. Like the funny guy in your class or your high school or whatever changed his deal to be more like Jim Carrey for a while.
He really got it too. The Saturday Night Live sketch where they do the Carrey reunion, and it's just the entire cast doing their own Jim Carrey impressions. Like that would always spoke to me. Like I think almost everybody I knew had a Jim Carrey impression at some point in the 90s, and how they did it was you could tell what part they, if it was Lloyd or if it was The Mask, or if it was Ace Ventura. But he was such a the 90s comedian to me, and that was his year. I mean, he was just unavoidable that year. And
I don't think anybody's ever had a box office year like that, drama, action, or comedy. Really, it's unprecedented what he did. It was spring, summer, and winter of that year. He owned it. Those were all $100 million plus movies, right? In the 90s, that much.
In the 90s, for sure. And I mean, especially Ace Ventura. I mean, they made that for like pennies, and they pay a little bit more on the other two, but
still overpriced for my money.
So yeah, I mean, to me, you're not going to be. Jim Carrey was 1994 to me.
Right on. My best performance is a little bit different than that performance or those performances. I'm going to go with Ralph Fiennes and Quiz Show. This is a movie also that would have been the They Didn't Get It Award runner-up. And Robert Redford directed movie about the crooked quiz shows of television of the 50s. And Ralph Fiennes plays sort of a elite, guy that is kind of chosen by the crooked quiz show folks to throw it. And you see his whole performance from the time that he's on to the time that he becomes a star to the time that he becomes a star beyond, whenever it's his actual doing the right thing. And it's a tough role because he's not a hero and he's not a villain, but he is the main character in a lot of ways. And he was in Schindler's List the year before as the worst Nazi in the world, and for him to come on as this really, really nuanced character, I think this is a movie with a lot of really great performances. I'm looking at you, John Turturro, and if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend Quiz Show and Rafe. Gary.
Okay, so this is my best performance is Kirsten Dunst in Interview with the Vampire. For some reason, I really like Interview with the Vampire. I mean, I like it because it's a good movie, and I think Kirsten Dunst does a great job with her role being. I don't remember how old she's supposed to be, but she's definitely older than her character, or her character is older than she actually is because she's a vampire, and yeah, she just plays it great. And the fact that she went on to have
starts off as a child, right? But then as the movie goes along, she gets older and older and older.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great pick.
Yep.
She was the Cameron Diaz of vampires.
That's right.
Beanie?
Great pick. So my choice is Kenan Thompson in D2, the Mighty Ducks sequel. I love Kenan.
I love this pick.
Okay, cool. I'm like, I know this is silly, but I love Kenan Thompson in everything that he does. This man in his performances can do no wrong. So that came out in '94. Then he had All That and Kenan and Kel, which was around the same time, but a couple years later. Just super funny guy. Do you guys know the premise of D2? Have you seen this movie?
All three of our kids have played hockey. So.
I know it's
yes.
So you've seen it. So, D2 taught me that Greenland is full of ice and Iceland is very nice. D2 taught me what Rodeo Drive was, and I don't mean the adult shop in Arnold, Missouri. Just a total. Kenan had the knuckle puck. It's knuckle puck time. I think that he's brilliant.
Great pick. Paul?
I'm going to go with Gary Oldman in Immortal Beloved.
Oh, good performance, yes.
Just an incredible performance. I mean, the dude actually learned how to play piano so he could look like Beethoven. He totally carries the film, and I think he, as I watched it, I don't even think that's Gary Oldman. I think that's Beethoven. So it's just a, underappreciated film, obviously, but it's a great performance.
Nice.
I quote from the top when he does that as Beethoven. He's from the top. I do that a lot to my kids.
Nice. I'll get you a bumper sticker.
Yep, thanks.
Bill?
All right, so y'all have picked some very top-notch performances. Mine is going to be Charlie Sheen and Christy Swanson in The Chase.
Nice, love it.
This is coming from a 15-year-old Phil that I remember seeing the movie and has everybody seen the movie? I don't know if this is one of those that people have seen or whatever.
I mean, I love Christy Swanson.
I've seen it.
She
It has Flea's in it.
If I remember correctly, she gets kidnapped and they're in this high-speed chase in this car together, and Charlie Sheen kidnapped her. But what stuck with me on this is because there's this part where Christy Swanson's the one that's kidnapped, ends up falling in love with her kidnapped Charlie Sheen, and they end up and it's a cheesiest scene, but you just see the silhouette of they start kissing, and he's driving this whole time and start doing this thing. And probably in my mind now it's way different than what my 15-year-old self actually saw. But the fact of the matter that he could drive and go through that scene, I think, is worthy of a good performance.
Well, it turns out Charlie Sheen in real life could do way more than that.
Yes, exactly.
All right. We're to the final category, everybody. We're to the best movie of 1994, in your opinion, obviously. That's all that matters. Phil, you're up again.
So there seems to be a theme here, because I actually chose this movie before the performance, one that we just talked about. But my favorite movie of 94 is Speed.
Oh, nice.
I thought that was a movie in 94 that I probably saw 100 times just because I thought it was a exciting. I mean, I haven't seen it since then, really. So, I probably should go back and watch again and see if it does hold up. But I mean, it's got Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock.
That does, actually. Yeah. It worked because it's half a disaster movie and half an action movie, so it kind of still holds the test of time. And Keanu, he's great in it.
And
Dennis Hopper,
the villain. Yeah.
Pop quiz hotshot. That's so good.
Well,
there's some good lines in there. I forgot that too.
Connective tissue between all the people on the bus and the Hopper Reeves thing that's going on, and she does a great job. And that was her first big deal too.
Yeah.
Apologies to Net.
Apologies to the Net. Yeah.
Great choice, Paul.
I'm just gonna bring back Shawshank Redemption again, just because it was my favorite film and still is from that era. And my favorite scene, of course, is when they play the Marriage of Figaro by Mozart, and he just turns it up in total defiance. But also how it just captures everyone, just with its beauty and just a memorable moment. But such a well-written film, so that's my favorite.
Me too on that one.
It's a great one.
I was afraid that was not going to get as far as me to get back to favorite film, but yeah, Shawshank.
All right, I'm gonna take it back down in the mud again. I too am a Jim Carrey apologist, and so I chose Dumb and Dumber. And you just have to remember that, I was 9 when the movie was out, but by the time it got to VHS or whatever, I was 11 or so. I mean, that's gold. It's comedy gold for an 11-year-old, and me and my brother still quote it back and forth all the time.
So you're saying there's a chance?
Hey, how was your day?
It's so cool.
I ran off the jetway again.
Yeah. So I agree. I thought that Jim Carrey had an amazing year that year, and not that I understood that at the time. He was just Jim Carrey, he was a mega star. So I do understand that.
Gary.
Oh, is it me?
It looks like it's you, my friend.
Yeah. So I was gonna say Pulp Fiction. I mean, I think it's probably Pulp Fiction, but then I chose not to say Pulp Fiction because I thought everybody else. So I'm going with Ed Wood is my runner-up best film. I think Johnny Depp does great in that. I think it also spoke to me because it's an outcast director. I mean, it's great. Ed Wood, watch it.
Yeah, it's good. Martin Landau was my runner-up or best performance.
Yeah,
I love him so much in that role. Whatever you think of Johnny Depp, he rules in Ed Wood for sure.
That's right.
He's so great.
Yep.
I love that. I'm gonna pick the Hudsucker Proxy.
You skipped. Oh no, it is you. Sorry, Hudsucker Proxy.
It's me. I'm gonna go with Hudsucker. We've talked about it a bunch. I would say it's my most beloved beloved movie of this year. We've talked about all the other good ones that I like a lot from this year, but that's the one that hit close to home. Score, performances, screenplay, the jokes are great. We got Paul Newman from Nobody's Fool in there being hilarious. The production design in that movie is where all the $40 million went, and you see it all on screen. It's this bizarre sort of Terry Gilliam-ish landscape of pipes and tunnels and industry. And it's also a New Year's Eve movie, so you could watch it on a New Year's Eve every year if you like. Though Hudsucker Proper one movie.
Sorry, Captain. I was going to say to Eric. Jennifer Jason Leigh was also in Mrs. Parker and the Vicious Circle. All three of the stars of Hudsucker Proxy were in other movies that year.
Other Oscar-nominatable performances.
Exactly.
That everybody just focused on instead of this movie.
Go on, Cap.
I was going to say that we've already talked about the two I would probably have said, which was Shawshank and Pulp Fiction. So I will say The Crow starring Brandon Lee. That was my film back in the day. I mean, as I mentioned, by 95, I had long black hair. That was going through my goth phase, and that movie was just so, like, it felt so, like, personal is not the right word, but I mean, Brandon Lee, like, was that character so hard. And, not to bring it back to music, too, the soundtrack was just omnipresent. I mean, everybody, all those songs on there, especially that The Cure song on there was so good, but the Nine Inch Nails cover was good. And
Jesus, Mary Chain.
Jamp was on there, Violent Femmes was on there, Stone Temple Pilots. I mean, that was like such a, like, it almost felt like everybody was issued that soundtrack. Like, I don't remember even buying it. I just, like, somehow had it. And the film itself, I mean, I was, the 90s, like, especially, like, that time, like, early to mid 90s, I was really into comic books, and that was, like, it felt like it did kind of justice to a comic book that I hadn't seen really much. That was way before our current time. And, it was just so...
a rated R comic book, right?
Yeah,
That wasn't a thing, because you had to do PG or PG-13 to justify your budget, right? Like, there was Batman, that existed, but this was probably the first one I remember being rated R kind of graphic novel that made money.
Yeah, it made a lot of money. And obviously, like, the story of him dying, like, really brought it to everyone's attention. That was obviously very tragic, but I mean, it was just such a, like, visually, it felt that, like, that the darkness of it really was interesting to me, and they incorporated the music actually pretty well into the film. Now it feels like wicked cliche to say it, like, the South Park bit where the devil dresses up as the Crow for Christmas. I mean, for Halloween. Like, it's a very, like looking back now, when you say the Crow, it sounds very Hot Topic, but at the time it was just so interesting to me. And
did you go see the remake?
Oh my God. If there was ever a film that did not need to be remade, I cannot believe they remade that film.
Yeah.
With the guy from It. Just mind blowing to me.
Skarsgård.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, The Crow, that was a good chunk of...
Speaking of sets, this is pre-CGI, and big sets, which are fun, it used to be pretty common for big budget movies to have these huge sets that are really interesting. And Alex Proyas does the same thing in that movie, Dark City, where he has all these nice sets that create this, city landscape. And that's fun.
We also just, like, morbidly, we would watch it and be like, kind of look to see where we could figure out, like, oh, they shot this after he died. Oh, shit, they shot that after he, like, you could kind of see it because they were kind of hamstrung, but they made it work. And it's still, I mean, it feels very moody, teenager-y now, but at the time it was just like what I wanted to see and hear.
Yeah, sure, Mr. Reznor.
Exactly.
And Brian, yours was Shawshank. Any?
I've got a couple backup. Well, Nobody's Fool, which we've already spoken about, would have been a backup, but also I would put a movie called The Professional on this list, yes. Which I just coincidentally rewatched a couple nights ago, and another performance by Gary Oldman, which was somewhat over the top in this movie. But
somewhat over the top.
Somewhat. Yeah, I'm being kind.
I mean, I think at one point he literally eats the scenery.
Yeah, and well, who steals that movie is a very young Natalie Portman. He was a cool actress. Yeah, and that might fit into the they didn't get it category well, because I'm not sure how popular that movie ever was or widely seen.
I think it's sort of Shawshanky, and the years afterwards, people kind of got it on VHS. But
yeah, I did not know of it when it came out, but then Eric and I were eating a couple of years later, Blackadder. For that was my number one. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, you're last.
So
sorry to steal your thunder.
No, you're totally fine, right? Yeah, I had 4 movies on my list, kind of thinking about them the whole time. Pulp Fiction, Washington, Widow, we already talked about a lit, and The Professional. Yeah, but I was gonna go with The Professional. It's just so different. It's so dark. It's so dirty, like, gritty. Dark,
There's a lot of milk in it.
I forgot about the milk. Yeah, like it's just kind of spare as far as the dialogue, between them. But you like how the girl and the assassin take care of you. That was really touching. Just a different kind of film.
Yeah, I felt like Luc Besson was going to be a real force in cinema because I liked La Femme Nikita, which was in French, and this was his first English language movie. And he really didn't mount a big career in cinema that became huge as far as cinema. I mean, like, I think The Fifth Element was a popular enough movie, but I don't think anybody holds that one as one of their favorite movies of all time or anything. And after that, he really didn't make anything else. But yeah.
Well, he went back to France and he made some more French movies, but
yeah, Taxi. And,
yep.
Well, he did a Joan of Arc movie with Mila.
Well, I think they were married for, yeah.
I wonder if he just really got hooked on her with that album she really didn't for. Well, you know what, you guys, I'm sorry to say, Paul and Brian, Jeannie, Alicia, Captain, Gary, we visited 1994, but we now need to leave it in the past. And I really appreciate, and also you, Phil. The best is saved for last, obviously. And appreciate you guys spending so much time with us. It was a lot of fun for me.
And
good.
Thanks, guys.
Gary, what about you? Did you have fun?
Yeah, thank you everybody for being on our podcast. We will be back.
Thanks, y'all.
Was there a question mark at the end of that?
Yes.
Bye.
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 Go Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, no bucks.